Hi guys, welcome to the Problem Solve podcast. We're on episode 4, and today I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Dermot from the Tallebudgera Surf Club. Hey Dermot.
Morning, Matt. Nice to see you.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for joining me today.
No worries.
I'm really excited about this podcast. Dermot and I have recently completed the new renovation at the Tallebudgera Surf Club. Quite an extensive renovation with plenty of challenges. So I'm actually pretty keen to get stuck into some of the challenges that we face, mate.
Good stuff.
Just a bit about Dermot. Dermot's, you're the general manager of the Tallebudgera Surf Club. So do you maybe just want to touch on?
Sure. There's two clubs. Like all surf clubs, there's two different clubs. There's the supporters club, which is the commercial side of the club, which raises the money, and then there's the Surf Lifesaving Club, and we donate our profits to the Surf Lifesaving Club, and they provide services to the community. We patrol Tallebudgera Beach, provide junior sport, senior sport, training, education. So it's really a self-funding model.
Yeah,
which is nice.
It's quite a big operation.
It is. Yeah, we're in a beautiful part of the world, and so we're pretty lucky.
And I believe the membership in the club's quite high too.
Yeah, we have on the surf club side, we have just under 1,000 members. A lot of them are volunteer lifesavers, nippers, masters, competitors, office bearers. Most of them volunteers. And then in the supporters club, we currently have just over 23,000 members.
Wow.
And most of those members live in the local area, Eleonora, Palm Beach, Burleigh. And it's growing post renovations, which is nice.
That's good. And but you're no stranger to the surf club, running surf clubs and acting in that GM role.
Yeah.
Maybe touch on some of your.
Yeah, I've been in community clubs now for about 20 years. I come from a hotel background in Ireland and the UK, and in Australia. And then got into community clubs about 20 years ago. I was at Northcliffe Surf Club in Surfers Paradise for 13 years. And so I love the community sector. You really get, it's good to give back, and it's nice to see where the money is spent.
Yep.
And as I said, it's self-funding. So there's a real incentive to work hard and make profit, because you know that
Where
it ends up on the beach, which is really nice. So I really enjoy it.
And I guess that sort of sets the scene for why you guys embarked on such a extensive project down at Tallebudgera.
Yeah. Like all clubs, you want to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And so the club had a master plan to renovate the club, and so that we'll long term be sustainable, so that we can continue to provide those services onto the beach, because that's why we're here.
Yes.
We obviously put a lot of emphasis on the commercial side of the club, but ultimately the number one objective is that we've got money to train lifesavers and provide equipment, and make sure that we provide those services for Tallebudgera Beach. So that's our number one objective. Yeah. So it was a means to an end to the club. The building was pretty tired, and we knew we needed to spend some money. So this was the biggest renovation. We've done a number of renovations over the years. We put on a new deck in 2018, and then during COVID, when we were closed for 3 months, we did reception and put in a new lift.
Yep.
But this renovation that we completed in November last year was certainly the biggest build we've ever done. Yeah. And so it was. It
was extensive.
Yeah, it was extensive, and we were going out to our footprint.
Yep.
And so it was certainly overdue. But it was very big for us, and of course, as a community club, that's quite a risk.
Yeah.
But it was we felt it was a measured risk, and we believed we had done our homework and our feasibility studies and all those boxes that you tick. But then we certainly encountered some
problems along the way.
Some challenges,
some unforeseen challenges. Yes. Well, I mean, to have a look at what you guys did, you essentially put in a new sort of state-of-the-art kitchen.
Yeah, we did. Surf clubs are all about food.
Yep.
And so
It's quite impressive now.
yeah, it is. It's a lovely kitchen. So we relocated, we demolished the old kitchen and slightly relocated the new kitchen to the southwestern corner, made it a lot bigger. And really, it's probably bigger than what we need at the moment. But when you're spending money on kitchens and they're very expensive to do, you really want to make sure that it's suitable for trade that you'll do in 10 years' time and 20 years' time. So we're really happy with the finished result, and I think it'll take us into the next couple of decades, which is really important.
There's no doubt about that, and I think the extension you did to the dining area as well is going to last.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's given us a few more options with function facilities, which we didn't previously really have. So it's given us more opportunities to do weddings and functions, and we've done a number of those already, and that's been amazing.
And you guys have been able to expand your offerings within the sort of kitchen and cafe
Absolutely,
area.
and the style and quality of the food that we can do now that we've got that kitchen. Previously, it was difficult. So it's has given us a lot more options, and obviously our bean surfing cafe. On the ground floor. Yeah, it's great. It's nice. Yeah. It's nice to do that. And obviously, beachside cafes are very popular, and a lot of the surf clubs now have a cafe option. And but that's proven really popular with the locals, which is nice.
So I think my observation as well was the project is really well balanced in terms of how it was designed. I mean, you maximised revenue opportunity with the kitchen, the dining, and the potential function areas in the future. And then you got the cafe downstairs, but then you also provided, a new gym for the members.
Yeah.
And then there was also space downstairs for the nippers and and for the members to use.
Absolutely, and we try to get that. You want to spend. You certainly want to spend a percentage of your money on revenue generating areas because you want to return the investment. You've got to pay the bank back. And so you want to make sure that you're spending money in those areas, but also in a club that's ultimately owned by the members. You want to spend money on their facilities, on change rooms, on training rooms, on first aid rooms, on canteens for nippers, and all those things are really important because that's what the members want. And yes, they want you to be successful financially so that we can donate money to the surf club, but they also want to have nice facilities. And because volunteerism has been on the decline, and so it's hard to retain members and get them to come back season after season. They're all volunteers, so to get volunteer lifesavers to put their hands up every season when everybody is really time poor, particularly at weekends, it's a big call. Hard. So you've got to provide some modern facilities for them to encourage them to come back every year. So that was really important.
That is, and I think, so I thought the project was well balanced. You guys had you catered for that quite significantly, and then also the revenue generating opportunities. But that then led to quite an extensive project, and it led to a project. We were operating and renovating in a facility that had a couple of renovations over the decades as well. So you were ripping down walls and seeing things that you could never have planned for. And that just sort of that added to the complexity of it and the extension of it. So if we set the scene, you guys had finalised the design. We sort of came on board as you signed the contract, or shortly after you signed the contract. And then we were sort of off. We had quite an extensive demolition, and then quite an extensive new build part in addition to that. And then we found ourselves in a little bit of a pickle.
We did. Our builder, who we'd used previously on two other jobs at the club, the deck in 2018 and the reception and lift, we went to tender, which we would always do, but they won the tender. And we were comfortable with that because we had dealt with them before and had no, and really were happy with them and had no issues. So at the time, there was a lot of pressure on the building industry. I mean, there still is. But
this was in the height of it.
Yeah, this was in the height of it. So we, they were a pretty big builder. They were getting bigger. perhaps too big in hindsight. But they weren't a small builder, and we were comfortable that that they do a really good job.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they started to show signs of financial stress.
Yep.
As you're aware of,
Yep.
they started to put in claims, monthly claims that were overstated.
Yep.
In our opinion and in your
My
opinion.
opinion, yeah.
And so we started getting really worried, and there was rumors that subcontractors weren't getting paid. They were some of them were contacting the club,
And then us.
and then our
Yeah.
project managers, and so we shared our concerns with the builder, and as you know, when we sat down and had meetings, and they came in with their CFO and assured us that everything was fine, and provided us with some documentation, financial documentation that we had requested. But it wasn't getting any better, to be honest. And then we made a decision to sit down and see if we could mutually agree to part ways. And just as we were doing that, they went into administration.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this project is, it's a good one to unpack because, you've got a situation where the club, which is, the whole purpose is a non-for-profit
yeah,
organisation. You guys stepped through exactly the right process in terms of a competitive tender, checking the financials before you started. Not only that, but you had a top 4 bank,
yep,
provide funding for the project as well.
yep.
So they independently vetted your builder.
They did.
And then you find yourself in this situation where you're 6 months in, work has, regressed to a point where not much is happening. Money's out the door. You're completely exposed because the project's half demolished. You're doing some operations on the side, right?
Yep.
So you're all of a sudden faced with the original time frame for completion's completely out the window. You've got no momentum with what's happening on the ground in terms of the new works, and you've got no solution. And then you've got members and the community also asking exactly the same questions as probably we were at the time.
Yeah.
So, I actually thought, mate, you handled that situation extremely well, and the communication back to the community and back to the members, I thought was spot on. But mate, do you want to touch on the intricacies of that? And because I think that you won't be the only club that faces this in the future. So I think there are some good points here to all.
Yeah, and it's if we were just if it was a private business and we're just dealing with the owner, then it would have been a lot easier. But obviously, there's a lot of stakeholders in a community club. It's owned by the members. We have committees and office bearers that are responsible for both the surf club and the supporters club with separate committees. We have we don't own the land. We're on Crown land, so we're the council, our important stakeholder, the bank, our members and our staff, staff and managers. So it was a very trying time, and you have to really involve all those people. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to do that. You can just focus on the problem at hand and trying to go back out to tender and all those things. But there's a lot of stakeholders involved, and that's the challenge of community clubs when you have a situation like that. So I'm so lucky that we have really professional committees, and obviously Don and Gary from the building committee, who are builders, were to be honest, we really wouldn't have got through it without them.
I thought they were instrumental.
They were absolutely fantastic, and so I got a lot of guidance from senior office bearers at the club, and it was really helpful. And I think the other thing is we're also fortunate that those committees work really well together. They're professional. We've got some really strong business experience on the committees, and those guys are smart. And so, it was a very big challenge for us. It was scary on so many different fronts.
And not for a short period of time.
No,
because for months on end.
Yeah, the builder went into administration in.
Good question. I can't remember now.
I think it was. We started having concerns in March, April, and I think they went into administration in the end of May, June.
Yeah.
And we were due to complete in November. And we ended up completing 12 months later than that, in November 25. So it took 22 months. So there was so much to consider. But the most important thing for me in my role was all the stakeholders and communicate and get buy-in and make sure everybody was aware, and because it was the most money we had ever borrowed as a club, and so there was a lot of nervous members and office bearers, and so
and rightly so.
Yeah. But we really stuck together, which was great, and that's makes it so much easier, particularly in my role. If you got the support of committees and members, and the bank were supportive, and so we were very incredibly lucky.
Yeah, we were, and I think for me, for the way from what I observed, I think your decision to set up the building committee with Don and Gary, I think that worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it wasn't my decision. It was the management committee of the club, and Don is the vice president, and Gary is a long-term member, and so they're both built in the building trade, and so it was a no-brainer to involve them. But they're busy, and they're volunteers, and the amount of time they put in was just
astronomical.
It was actually inspiring for me, because I see volunteers who work hard all day and do long hours in their own jobs, and then come to meetings at night or come to meetings early in the morning when, as volunteers, and did that over a 22-month period. It tells you a little bit about their passion for the surf club. And they made themselves available to us. Yeah, absolutely.
They were available on call for
exactly.
us as well.
So it was quite inspiring, to be honest, and it kind of motivates you to want to get through it. It was really challenging, but when you see people like that, you think, well, they're volunteers, so you just want to do it. I think the other thing as well is we had to, and it was so important, and you didn't really think so at the time, but having really good project managers on board, making sure that we spend a lot of money, and we did spend a lot of money on legals for our building contract, but it was pretty tight. And I'm talking about going into the second stage. with the new builder, just making sure that we invested in that building contract and made sure that we had it as tight as possible. Obviously, with the MG Group's guidance. That was critical, because it could have gone pear-shaped, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of step back and I look at that and I go, it could have gone pear-shaped budget.
Yep.
We could have ended up with not the facility that you wanted.
Yep.
It could have pushed out longer than 12 months, longer than that 22-month period as well.
Yep.
And it was clear from my side that you guys had to get back to full trading ASAP. So, there was a few acute issues there.
There was,
and we got there in the end.
Yeah, and we had to keep trading because we're a club, and so our members expect, even though we're going through renovations, and we obviously kept them in the loop and let them know what was happening, and we did regular newsletters out to them, but they still want to come into the club and enjoy the facilities, and so we still have to trade through difficult conditions. We had a temporary kitchen that was positioned out in the park.
A reduced menu as well.
Yeah, reduced menu, and that ran for 10 months. And so, but the members still want to come in. They want to eat. They want to have a glass of wine, have a beer. They want to enjoy the view and the facilities.
Still has to
So
happen.
yeah, so we still have to, and from a financial point of view, we still have to take money. We still have to make money to provide the services in the surf club.
Yeah.
So we couldn't, we couldn't stop doing that.
Yep.
So we had to continue to trade for 22 months in a really less than 50% of the floor space. Yeah.
And when you look back, it was significant.
Yeah.
One of the
Don't think I'd want to do it again.
No, I'm with you on that. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I thought was important through the job, I think there were a couple of key moments, and there's a couple of key meetings which I know we were in together with Don and Gary. And I think for me, when I was sitting back, I thought, the decisiveness of the club in terms of how they make their decisions moving forward in this critical time is going to be the difference between them getting out of this.
Yeah.
And I just thought when push came to shove and the big decisions had to be made, I thought you guys were very decisive. And I thought that was a key element, because to be decisive with that many stakeholders is very, very challenging. And to then communicate maybe our advice as well back to the stakeholders, it was because sometimes it wasn't the advice or it was unpopular at the time because it was, because it was so serious. So I thought that was managed very, very, very well. And then the decisions back that could then be implemented into the project and implemented into our solution, I thought was spot on. I thought it was very, very decisive, and the club moved very quickly when they had to. And that might sound like a simple thing, but in my experience with community projects and club projects, that's not always the case. And I thought that the club managed that very well.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to my point about the professionalism of the committees.
Yep.
And so they're business people. They understand how to problem solve and make decisions. And so I wasn't surprised, to be honest, because I knew that they wanted to fix it quickly and move on. So, and the challenge is our members want to do so. The committee understand that, so we needed to get it done for our members, because the longer it goes on, the bigger the risk of losing members to other clubs.
Yeah.
As the patrolling seasons came on and our patrolling members had nowhere to have a shower and nowhere to change, and they got frustrated.
Yeah.
They were very patient, really, but the longer it went on, the worse. The bigger the risk of losing members in both organisations, in the supporters club and in the surf club. So we really needed to make those decisions.
Yeah.
It
was done well. So if I then go back and I look at how we transitioned out of it, I thought we did well to position the club from a cost to complete perspective as well. We had enough money in there to finish the job, and that was because we acted really quickly when things started to go wrong, and contractually we made the right decisions to protect the club's financial interests, and then just getting on with it. So making those, going through, and there was obviously defective works that had to be recertified. What were you feeling through that period there? Because we'd appointed the new builder, but we still weren't out of it. We still had a number of challenges.
Well, we were concerned, obviously, at the time. Building prices building material prices were soaring. And 30-odd% in some instances. And so we were, obviously, you guys were briefing us on that. We knew that when we went as tender the second time that it was going to be a lot more expensive than original. And that was the case. I think we picked 3 really good builders to go to tender, and we decided to go with Shape in the end, and but the costs were there, so we were nervous about the additional costs. We were nervous about our contingency, We felt we had adequate contingency at the start of the project, and we realised because of everything that happened that that contingency was
going to be used.
Was going to be used and some.
Yep.
So there was a lot of nervousness about the financial side of it. About we funded probably about 45% of the project costs ourselves, and the bank funded the rest. So we were really nervous, but I think at the same time, Shape when Shape came on board and we had those first few meetings with the MG group and Shape, we started to feel that we can do this.
Yep.
They were certainly they came. I think they came to the first meeting with about 12 representatives, which surprised me. But I suppose it says a little bit about their culture, and so they certainly had a lot of resources and really professional company. Yep. So that gave us a lot of comfort after the previous builder going bust. And I think then we made some decisions. We had to keep things tight. We couldn't. There was lots of nice to dos that we decided not to do because you have to be realistic.
Yep.
We needed to get it finished.
I thought we prioritised where to spend the money really well.
Yeah.
As well. I thought that we executed well.
Yeah. And I must say, what gave me comfort was Sarah from your office controlled the budget, and it was good having just one person control it rather than
multiples.
Multiple budgets floating around. Us, and so everything went through Sarah, and she kept us. She kept the master budget and where we were at cost of completion, and kept us in the loop. And we obviously shared that with all the relevant stakeholders, the committees, and that just gave us comfort every month that we were on track financially, which was probably the biggest concern for us, that we were going to be able to do this, and so that was really, really helpful for me in my role, having Sarah control that and keep us in the loop every time. It was great.
And forecasting as well. So I thought, what she did well was forecast potential costs down that no one could see, because that allowed you to communicate early as well.
And we did have some variations, and which you always have, but a couple of larger variations and to be honest, they were justified. It wasn't a design and construct. So the new builder, when they came in, inherited all of the previous and so, and as you said earlier, surf clubs over the years are built in little stages, and sometimes with members who's a chippy or a bricky, and they build these walls and you don't know what's behind them, and it's only when you actually start demolishing that you realize you've got some big challenges.
There was some good history in when we knocked
out
a few of those walls.
Fantastic. But it led to some pretty large variations, which we kind of knew we'd be up for. But it's still a bit scary when they come in.
Especially after what we'd gone through to get to that point.
Yeah. But I think I think you guys managed those really well and pushed back when required. But at the same time, a lot of them were justifiable. Yeah.
And I actually thought Shape did a good job.
They did
in picking up some of the history. And then driving it because they were well aware of us pushing to get the project finished so you guys could get back to full capacity and full trade.
It would have been very difficult for any builder coming in halfway through a project that's been half completed. Very, very difficult. And I think they handled it really, really well. And I think, it was a big challenge for them.
It was.
And they did a great job.
I think one thing I observed through that period as well, that in the roles that you sort of played in that, is I think your visibility on site was pretty good. You were on site every day. and you were across the minute detail. So I think, just thinking back, you knew what was happening on site, what was being delivered on site, what works were being done, what work should have been done, shouldn't have been done. So you were very much in the detail through that period where we were exposed to all the elements. And I thought, my observation there was, I thought that was super beneficial. It was beneficial for us because we could actually just get to talking about solutions.
Yeah.
And you were really across exactly what was happening, and I thought that was beneficial.
Well, I think I wanted to have just one point of contact with the builder. Obviously, we've got different managers at the club, but I wanted them to really focus on operations during the renovation because we needed to maintain those member services, and so I kind of wanted to just focus on the build as much as possible. So I got there at 6 every morning and met with the foreman because there was always things that were changing which impacted the operations. So I wanted to be over that, and then I'd communicate that through to the team. And then I was also conscious that our building committee had full-time jobs, and it would be unfair to ask them to be there early when they've got work. And so I made a decision early that I think I should be there, and I think it's helped. It was a steep learning curve for me, although I've been through quite a lot of renovations over the years.
This one was special.
This one was different, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from you guys because sitting in meetings and hearing some of the questions that you guys were asking. So there were some light bulb moments for me.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to think, right, okay, I that's what I need to be looking for. So it was fun. To be honest, it was fun, even though it was really challenging and long hours and stressful at times. It was actually fun. It was actually it was interesting and different, and it was hard sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it was it was really challenging, but I enjoyed it.
I think I dropped in for a coffee the other day. It was good to see the cafe downstairs pumping in the morning, and then to look out and to see what you guys are going to be able to do in that space, and that all the staff are back, full capacity, and to walk into that club now, it's a good feeling because you don't always get that with some projects. Sometimes you finish and you never see the benefit, but now that project's going to stand there it's going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a benefit to the community moving forward, and I think
and also create a lot of jobs. I mean, we've got 96 staff at the moment, so that's a lot more than we used to have. So it's created a lot of jobs in the community, which is nice. I'm glad you mentioned our staff because it's really hard for them. They lost shifts, they lost hours. Some of them lost jobs because the project went on so long, and they've got families and car loans and rent and mortgages and everything else. And so although we sometimes forget the impact it has on people's lives when projects go 22 months because builders fail, it has a massive impact on the team and on morale. And, you get over, after a while, you're just fed up with the dust and the noise and the builders' hats and if I see another builder, So we kind of got to a stage where we were just over it, and it was hard for the team, and so morale suffered, and it was so nice to actually finish and see the smile on everyone's faces, and the fact that we could re-employ a lot of people and provide jobs, and that's nice. It's nice, particularly as a community club, because those people live in the community.
And I mean, I think the club executed on the original plan. Yeah. It just took a little bit longer.
It did. And the finished product is amazing.
It is, yeah.
So we're so happy. It's beyond our expectations. We did a lot of modelling and feasibility studies prior to the renovation, and it's exceeded all of those forecasts. So we're really, really pleased with the overall result. and it's been worth it. It's been worth it.
It's been worth it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome that we can say that now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and where to from here for the club?
I think we have a DA to do some more work. We want to relocate the gaming room. We want to create a central toilet block in the middle of the club. At the moment, we've got a ladies' toilet at one end and a ladies and gents and disabled at the other end. So we want to build a central toilet, which will be a lot more member friendly, and then move the gaming room where we're going to put those new toilets over to the northwestern corner, and then do some work in the bar.
Yeah.
The bar is it's a long bar. We want to create an island bar potentially, and so so that's the next next project, and we've started the very early stages of planning for that, and so we just have to see where it takes us in the next couple of years in relation to our ability to fund the project, which is the important thing. So we're pretty confident that we can get that underway, and so. And the thing about it is, before we know it, we'll be sitting down signing contracts, and it's probably going to be a number of years away, but it takes the lead-in time, as you know. The lead-in time is significant, and so that's exciting for the club.
It's awesome to be in that position too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and the important thing is, as I said at the start, is for the club to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So I certainly. When I do decide to retire, I want to walk away knowing that the club is sustainable and that the services that we provide on the beach are going to be there long term.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And you have delivered. There's only the final stage of that piece of the puzzle left.
Yeah.
So you're almost
and we have to, because there's a lot of activity in clubland. There's a lot of clubs doing renovations, and so. We have to be competitive, and if we don't, it's a slippery slope. Yeah.
Perfect. And just again, thank you for allowing us to be part of the journey.
Pleasure.
Because it was a special project for us, because it was something that we took on, and we were passionate about it, and we could see the impacts of it. So we were just fortunate. We just appreciate being part of that journey and being part of the overall legacy of.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. It was probably the smartest decision we made. At the time, we didn't think our builder was going to go bust and everything else. But in hindsight, engaging you guys was probably the smartest thing we did, because you saw us through that.
Yeah.
You had experience in that. You saved us a lot of money, because we could very easily have made those. Paid those claims that the first builder was making, which weren't, he wasn't able to quantify. It would have been very easy, if we didn't have a project manager on board, to pay those, and then suddenly be out of pocket to some six-figure sums. So in hindsight, it was the best thing we did, because you were the one that said, no, we're not going to pay that. And that went on for a number of months, as you know, and that got quite heated.
It did get quite heated.
There were some very heated meetings
with
the builder, but you were adamant that we weren't going to pay them.
Yeah.
And that saved us a lot of money. So we were very lucky. We were very lucky that we had a project manager signing off on those claims. Yeah, really important.
I think for us, it was during that tough period, it was the fact that we worked so well together.
Yeah,
with you
and
the club, and I think what excites me in my stage of my career is the fact that I thought we worked extremely well together. There was good cohesion. We were super aligned in every decision, so there was no friction.
Yeah, that's right.
So even though it was challenging, we were able to move through those challenging periods, and I just thought it solidified relationships between
Absolutely.
us and the club,
Absolutely.
and then us and then the future builder
Yep.
as well. So yeah, that for me was the best part of the project. So
It's true, because we all take our jobs really seriously,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you want to enjoy the relationships and keep them positive and constructive, and that's equally as important.
It is, because I feel like I can call you, and then still talking to Don,
Exactly.
and then got
Exactly.
the relationship with Gary. So and that's for me, that's the sign of a project well done.
It is.
Because physically the building's there, it looks great. Yes, that's your physical sort of proof that the project went well, but then it's the relationships that are intact.
And they're maintained.
Yeah, and they're maintained, and that's
it's not always the case.
It's not always the case, and so I think for me personally, that was the biggest highlight.
Yeah, spot on.
So
good stuff.
Thank you very much, Dermot. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing
Pleasure.
the journey with me, mate.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.